Stock markets in Europe are trading lower this morning, with the UK's FTSE 100 index off around about 25 points. The Euro Stoxx 50 index currently trading flat, and the DAX in Germany surprisingly doing a little better than all the other pairs out there, just 12 points. US stock futures are also losing steam. The Dow Jones Industrial Average 5-month futures contract is currently down around about 12 points, and the S&P 500 corresponding contract is currently lower by 2 points. In the FX space, we have a somewhat stronger yen after the Nikkei index overnight lost some steam. Have a stable dollar and also a stable euro, and going into the commodity space, we are seeing a rebound across all metals and oil prices. Gold is coming up $7 after yesterday's sharp losses, and that's the same case for iron ore and copper prices. And going into core government bonds, UK gilt and German bonds are seeing a bit of demand as that safe haven label is still very much in play, and investors are continuing to adjust their portfolio in order to essentially adjust risk in a way where they can manage the geopolitical tensions in Ukraine, and also what's going on in Asia with the poor Chinese data and also the damp GDP figures out from Japan. Good morning, I'm Malaysia and welcome to your Daily Market Bite. That was a pretty long intro, so I'm going to make it a little bit more shorter this time around with what's going on in the world today. So we had a negative session rather in the US overnight. However, US markets did pay their losses and came off from the worst levels of the day. That kicked up Asian markets overnight. In Asia, we had a rebound really after Monday's punishment across Asian markets, and that was after Chinese exports fell around about 18%. Big drastic drop, very ugly number that rattled investors' confidence across the board, led to a sharp decline for commodity prices, and that hurt mining companies around the world, particularly in Europe where we have a very large mining sector. At the same time, we had GDP figures out from Japan, which were revised a little lower. Obviously, raised some questions over the effectiveness of Shinzo Abe's economics framework. He is the Prime Minister in Japan. However, in the overnight session in Asia, share markets did rebound and commodity prices did pick up again. And although we still have a number of issues in the world, and particularly China's slowing credit growth, and also at the same time the poor Chinese data, investors in Asia chose to ignore that for the moment and essentially get into the market at a cheaper price. There are continuing worries about the missing Malaysian Airlines plane and the mystery that surrounds that. There's no debris, there's no wreckage found, and agencies around the world are looking to investigate this further until they can get some sort of idea of what exactly happened to this missing plane, and the threat of potential terrorism does come to mind for a lot of people in the market, which is causing a bit of hesitation. Going into the European session, it is somewhat weaker on the whole. We are dealing with tensions in Ukraine now. In terms of what's been going on, the recent developments, John Kerry, the Secretary of the State in the US, he's rebuffed talks with Vladimir Putin, the President of Russia, suggesting that the only way that they're going to have some sort of negotiation for a solution is if Vladimir Putin plays ball with the US and starts to ease some of the tensions in Ukraine, particularly after Russia expanded their presence in the Crimea region. Now, Crimea has a referendum on Sunday. The Parliament last week already voted to be part of Russia, and in this referendum that will be finalized. Crimea is a very important region for both Ukraine and Russia. Russia ethnically dominates there, with most Crimeans ethnically seeing themselves as Russians. But in terms of legislator and Ukraine's constitution, Crimea is part of Ukraine. So if the Crimeans do vote to go go to Russia or be Russian, it's very likely that Western powers will call this illegal, and that's the same case for the Ukrainians. Going on to the US session later, we have some jobs figures out from the US. It's not a major jobs report, it's more of a small indication of job openings, and that's going to dominate some of the flow later on when it comes to macro data. It's quite light. We have wholesale inventories to look out for, and at the same time, a lot of the commentary around the US market is going to be the Federal Reserve's next policy meeting, in which they're likely to cut the bond buying program by $10 billion again for the month of March. Quickly back to Europe, we have UK manufacturing industrial output figures quite down, suggesting that the bad weather did get to the UK economy as well, so it wasn't only the US. However, investors are starting to shrug that a little bit, as we know that that is somewhat factored in. It doesn't take away from the fact that the UK economy is showing growth on the whole. That is all for your daily market buy. Thank you for watching, and tune in for another one tomorrow.